Let's start with the Houston Astros and how this may affect the Astros moving forward. Yordan Alvarez, you heard it, Ken. AJ said he's missed most of the season with injury. He's such a huge piece of that puzzle. What do the Astros do if he's out for an extended period of time?
Well, last night, Zach Cole stepped in, home run, RBI single. So they'll have him. And he's a former 10th rounder. He's had a little run here so far with them, and it's been pretty good. Now, he's not Yordan Alvarez, obviously. The only thing I will say in a positive sense for the Astros, if Yordan is out for any length of time, is that they played for nearly 3 months without him and played really their best baseball of the season. And they were not just without him, of course. Pena was down for a month during that time, all these different starting pitchers. So they've shown an ability to withstand injuries all season long. And now they're a bit stronger because of what they did at the deadline with Correa and Urias, and of course, Jesus Sanchez coming over. So listen, obviously, losing Yordan Alvarez for any length of time in the middle of a pennant race would not be good. Losing him for the postseason would not be good. But the Astros do have this resourceful way about them. And even last night, they showed it the way they performed after the Alvarez injury in beating the Rangers.
Any way that this speeds up the recovery time, speeds up how quickly they get Isaac Paredes back on the field, or the Astros, we never know anything about injuries, if it's a lower body, if it's a hand, or what it is.
Well, that's certainly true about Isaac Paredes and whether he can come back and whether the Astros will reveal the injuries or whatever they are going to do. He is on the mend. I don't expect they're going to accelerate it because of this. He is a guy that they are perhaps counting on at some point before the regular season is over. What's interesting about this is they didn't have a position for him until this would happen, or until this happened. Remember, Correa is now at third base. Isaac Paredes was at third base before, and I don't know where exactly he was going to play if he came back and Yordan was healthy. That's still a question if Yordan is just a few days, for instance. But when you leave in a walking boot last night, I sort of doubt it's going to be a few days, probably more than that. So in a way, and I should have mentioned this when you first asked the question, this could be, as far as the roster spot for Isaac Paredes is concerned, a blessing because it opens up the DH spot.
Ken, there's another team in their division, the Mariners, who we thought had crumbled because they went east of Spokane. It's kind of my running joke. If they go east of Idaho, they can't play, right? But now all of a sudden they're ahead of the Astros, and their turnaround, as soon as they got home, it was a different team. So is this something they're worried about going forward in the postseason, and why is it so drastic? And don't give me the travel, because everyone travels. The Red Sox travel far too. So teams do this, but why does it always seem like the Mariners have this problem?
I'm not exactly sure. I touched on this in my notes column today, AJ. Their splits at home and on the road are revealing. They're much better from a pitching standpoint at home, much better from a hitting standpoint on the road. And it's because T-Mobile Park is the most difficult run scoring environment in the majors. So that is a challenge for them. And you would think at the same time, they should be able to pitch better on the road than they have. They've got quality arms, starting rotation, and in the bullpen. One of the best staffs in baseball. So it is curious that this has occurred the way it has, especially this season. At the same time, I sort of expected if they get to the postseason, even if they don't have home field, whatever, they'll be fine. It's a different animal in the postseason. But yes, for sure that they've struggled, particularly going east on that last trip, Tampa Bay, Cleveland, Atlanta.
Ken, also in your notes column, talking a little bit about future Hall of Famer Bruce Bochy in terms of getting into Cooperstown as a manager. Could he be a manager of the year, not only a candidate, Ken, but a recipient? It's an award he hasn't won since 1996. And does it matter if the Rangers make the postseason or not?
It certainly matters, Alana, if they make the postseason. In fact, the entire premise is based on them making the postseason, because they were not a team that anyone was particularly excited about for 5 months. And the case for Bochy would be they struggled all year long. They had a massive set of injuries at mid-August to the end of August, and yet they still found a way to get to the postseason. If that happens, that's the case. What's interesting about the American League is there are a number of really good Manager of the Year candidates. And I started off that story talking about Espada, Joe Espada, the Astros manager, because of the way that they have overcome their injuries, not to mention the loss of Kyle Tucker, or the trade of Kyle Tucker, and loss of Alex Bregman to free agency. So to me, he's the front runner. And if the Astros get in, he probably should win. But you can certainly make a case for AJ Hinch in Detroit, John Schneider in Toronto, Alex Cora in Boston, even Stephen Vogt with the Guardians. They're 3 out in the wild card and doing it with an offense that no one would find to be particularly dangerous. So it's an interesting race. The most interesting thing about this to me with regard to Bochy was simply that, like you said, Alana, he has not won this since 1996. It's almost 30 years. He's won 4 World Series in that time, but he hasn't won a Manager of the Year because, of course, this award is based on regular season performance only.
Ken, John Schneider's going to win. Okay, let's just – I know you like to forget about the team up north, Ken, but John Schneider's going to win, okay? He's going to win this award just because they're in the AL East. And everyone's going to look at him and say, oh, the Yankees and Red Sox, but the Blue Jays. But, hey, that's fine. I get it. You forget about him sometimes. It's fine.
Oh, yeah.
I got you. I got you.
Sure, now, AJ. Whatever you say, brother.
Kratz, I'm going to steal a line right from the top here about MeUndies. A cut for every butt. I took a line that I feel like you would enjoy, but then you stole my thunder with show and tell. What do you have there?
Besides a huge Baduka dunk, this is my pair of MeUndies that I got. I'm not going to show you the other pair right now because I got them on, but it doesn't even feel like you have them on. Super soft, flexible, and yet holding everything together.
I love the 20 different styles, 100 different colors and prints, and the micro-modal fabric is what you're talking about. Breathable, stretchy, unbelievably cozy. And right now, as a listener of FT, you can get cozy and spooky for less with deals up to 50% off at MeUndies.com/foul and enter promo code FOUL. That's MeUndies.com/foul, promo code FOUL for up to 50% off. MeUndies, comfort that's made for fall.
The Brewers. We just did the Brewers game on Saturday, and in your notes, you'd mentioned them the way they gave up. They didn't give up on platooning, but they let their young kids hit left on left. Frelick, Terang, and now they're actually doing okay against lefties. Why don't more teams do this? Why don't more teams allow their lefties when they come up to just hit against lefties and maybe learn, especially for teams that aren't competing?
I don't know. And teams, the way they see it is we want to max out every day. We want to give ourselves the best possible chance of winning every day. So if it's a left-on-left matchup with a young player and we have a veteran right-handed hitter on the bench, or even not a veteran right-handed hitter, let's go with that player and give ourselves the best platoon advantage in this particular circumstance. We all understand that, and on a day-to-day basis, perhaps that is the best way to go. But that note stemmed from a conversation I had with Sal Frelick over the weekend, and he mentioned to me that he believes he has become a better hitter overall because the Brewers have allowed him and Bryce Terang to go left on left pretty much all season. And his point was when you're seeing balls breaking different ways, it helps you with your swing regardless. You have to read it to kind of get the full explanation. But I thought it was really interesting. And I remember, this is an extreme example, but Jock Peterson, right? Jock Peterson's been a guy that has been a platoon player for quite some time now. What if at the start of Jock Peterson's career, and I know he did get chances against lefties, but just as an example, what if they played him for 3 years every day against lefties and ignored this whole thing? Would he have been better for it? Now, the team might say, we weren't going to do that. The performance would have not been good enough, and why hurt our team that way? Valid point. But there is something to what Frelick said, in my opinion. Something about how it helps you overall as a hitter to face pitchers from both sides.
I got it. Before you go, though, I'm putting you on the spot, and you know I love doing this. Who wins the AL West, who wins the AL wild card, and who wins the NL wild card? The last one, obviously.
All right, I'm going to go with the Mets to win the NL wild card. Those 3 teams that are chasing them are all around 500. It's very difficult for me to conceive how any of them is ultimately going to overcome the Mets, who finally snapped their 8-game winning streak on Sunday, or losing streak, I should say, and to me still have the best talent by far. You see the standings right there. AL wildcard and AL West division races. I see the Mariners winning the division, and I see the Astros being the other wild card. I just don't know that the Rangers are good enough, and now the distance is 2 games with however many to play between them and the Astros, actually 3. And it's just, to me, a pretty big deficit to overcome. Now, they do play the Astros the next 2 nights. They beat the Astros, then it's 1 game and let the fun begin. But I just have a hard time seeing it. And with Seattle, they're playing better. Houston is obviously going to have to deal with this Alvarez situation one way or the other. And Houston has not been as consistent a team offensively as we've seen in the past. I didn't check today, but yesterday they were something like 24th in the majors in runs per game. The Houston Astros, with Altuve and Alvarez and Pena and Correa, all these really good players. Christian Walker's another one. So they have not hit the way they should. And of course, they don't have Hader. Who knows how this plays out? The Astros are an incredibly resilient bunch. But if you're asking me to be giving you an answer right here, Seattle for the title, the Astros for the final wild card, Rangers out.
That's funny that you say that, Ken, because yesterday we had Jeff Blum on the show and Eric Kratz asked him, do the Astros win the division or miss the playoffs entirely? It's crazy to think we have such a wild ride the last couple of weeks of the season. Cardinals not in the postseason picture, but I wanted to ask you this before we say goodbye. Are there changes coming for the Cardinals? What do you think that team looks like in 2026?
Younger, cheaper, perhaps. And the reason I say that, obviously now I would expect they're going to trade Arenado, and he'll be more willing to do it. In fact, he had some quotes last night to their beat reporters to that effect, that he knows where they're going. So that's one thing. They have younger players that they still want to look at. They still haven't gotten answers on Gorman, on some of the others as well. So they're going to be younger under Chaim Bloom in his first year president of baseball operations. And they're going to try to figure out exactly who their keepers are. I expect it's going to be Burleson and Ivan Herrera and Mason Wynn, and that's their core. I think they could trade Brendan Donovan, 2 years of control remaining, a guy who teams love and will be in demand, and they probably can get something decent for him, because it seems to me that the Cardinals under Bloom are going to take a step back and not go forward for next year like they tried to this year. Remember, they took kind of a half step back, but ultimately did not trade Helsley in the offseason, did not trade Eric Fetty, went into the season kind of in this halfway mode. Now they're going to rip the Band-Aid off, I would expect, and then you will see some things happen. They're not going to trade everybody, but a guy like Donovan, who has a little more service time and probably won't be part of the next really good Cardinals team unless they extend him, to me, that would be a logical move.